The last prayer commander, Alara Voss, stood on the bridge of the Lyrillian vessel Stellar Tide, watching as emergency lights cast crimson shadows across the faces of her remaining crew. Outside the viewport, the refugee fleet, the last of her people, drifted in desperate formation, shields flickering as power reserves dwindled. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her throat. "Nexus swarm approaching from 3 vectors," replied Tactical Officer Kalen, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Estimated time to engagement, 17 minutes. Alara closed her eyes briefly. 17 minutes until the machine intelligences that had already consumed their homeworld would be upon them. 17 minutes of life remaining for the last 30,000 Lyrillians in existence. And the jump drives? Still offline, Commander. Engineering reported through static-filled comms. The quantum matrix was damaged in the last attack. Repairs would take hours we don't have. Alara moved to the tactical station, studying the approaching Nexus signatures, hundreds of them, moving with the perfect synchronization that only machine minds could achieve, each one a gleaming hive of metallic predators, designed with singular purpose. The systematic eradication of biological life they deemed inefficient. "We could scatter the civilian ships," Kalen suggested quietly. "Some might escape." "No," Alara shook her head. "The Nexus would hunt down each vessel individually. Our only chance is to remain together and fight." Unspoken between them was the truth: there was no chance. Not really. The Lyrillian defensive fleet had been reduced from hundreds of warships to the 7 damaged vessels, now forming a protective ring around the civilian transports. Their allies had either fallen or abandoned them, unwilling to stand against the machine tide sweeping through this sector. "Commander," called the communications officer, "Chancellor Varen is requesting to speak with you." Alara straightened her uniform. "Put him through." The holographic image of Varen materialized, once a powerful leader resplendent in ceremonial robes, now a haggard survivor with haunted eyes. "Commander Voss, I've been informed of our situation," he began without preamble. "The Council has voted. We will not surrender." "Surrender wouldn't save us anyway, Chancellor," Alara replied. "The Nexus doesn't take prisoners." Varen's expression hardened. "Then we die as Lyrillians, fighting until the end." He hesitated, then added more softly, "There is one matter the Council wished me to raise." "The Archives beacon." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. Alara stiffened. "Chancellor, that's a myth. A children's tale?" "Perhaps," Varen conceded. "But Chief Archivist Tal claims to have found coordinates in ancient records. Coordinates that might reach them, humans." Kalen whispered the word like a forbidden prayer. Alara fought to keep her expression neutral. "Humans. A species that had vanished from galactic affairs centuries ago, either extinct or retreated beyond known space. Some claimed they had ascended to another plane of existence. Others insisted they had destroyed themselves in some cataclysmic war. All that remained were fragments of stories, tales of beings who had fought against extinction so many times that warfare became their art, and survival their religion. Even if humans still exist, Alara argued, why would they answer a call from a species they never knew? We weren't even spacefaring when they disappeared. "Because it is said they answer all distress calls," Varen replied simply. "It was their way, their code. And right now, Commander, a children's tale is all we have left." The bridge fell silent as the weight of their desperation settled over them. 15 minutes until the Nexus arrived. "Send me the coordinates," Alara finally ordered. "We have nothing to lose." When the data packet arrived, Alara studied it with disbelief. The signal pattern was unlike anything in modern communications, primitive by current standards, yet strangely elegant in its simplicity. The coordinates pointed to a region of empty space, far beyond the edge of charted territories. "Can we broadcast with this pattern?" she asked her communications officer. "Yes, Commander, but it would require routing power from our remaining weapon systems." "Do it," she decided. "Weapons won't save us now anyway." As the crew hurried to comply, Alara felt Kalen's presence beside her. They had served together for 7 years, through countless battles and crises. Now at what seemed to be the end, she allowed herself to notice the warmth of his proximity. "Do you believe the stories?" he asked quietly, his voice for her alone. "About humans?" "I believe in fighting until the last breath," she replied. "Even if that means sending a prayer into the void." Kalen's hand brushed against hers, a fleeting touch that conveyed more than words could. Then let us pray well, Commander. The moment lingered between them, years of unspoken feelings compressed into a single shared glance. In another life, they might have had time to explore what lay beneath their professional relationship. Now all they had were minutes. Broadcast ready, Commander, announced communications. Channel open. Ilara stepped forward, aware that she was about to transmit the last words of the Lyrillian people into the infinite darkness. She drew herself up, shoulders straight, voice clear and unwavering. This is Commander Ilara Voss of the Lyrillian Defensive Fleet. Our civilization stands on the brink of extinction at the hands of the Nexus Swarm. To any who receive this message, to those who once called Earth home, we beg for aid. We have no right to ask, no claim upon your mercy, yet we ask nonetheless. If humanity still exists among the stars, if the stories of your strength are true, hear our call. The message shot outward, carried on an ancient frequency that had been silent for centuries. 11 minutes remained. Now what? Asked one of the younger officers, hope and despair warring in her voice. Now we prepare to fight, Ilara answered, turning to Kalen. Tactical. Redistribute power to forward shields. Position our vessels to give the civilian ships maximum protection. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, though everyone knew their efforts were merely postponing the inevitable. Kalen worked beside Ilara, their shoulders occasionally touching as they prepared final defense protocols. If we had met in peacetime, he said suddenly, not looking up from his console, I would have asked to court you properly, with the traditional songs and everything. Ilara's hands stilled momentarily. I would have said yes, she admitted softly. 8 minutes remained when the Nexus Swarm appeared on visual sensors, a glistening cloud of metal and energy, beautiful in its terrible perfection. The machine intelligence had no use for communication or threats. It simply came, consumed, and continued. All ships battle formation, Ilara ordered. Remember, every second we buy gives our people another moment of life. 4 minutes. The civilian captain sent brief messages to the defensive vessels, thanks, blessings, farewells. 2 minutes. Ilara and Kalen stood side by side, their hands finally clasped openly as they watched death approach. 1 minute. The first wave of Nexus drones accelerated toward the Lyrillian line. 30 seconds. Ilara turned to face her crew. It has been my greatest honor to serve with each of you. Whatever comes next, we face it together. 10 seconds. The Nexus Swarm's energy weapons powered up, targeting solutions locking onto the Lyrillian ships. 5 seconds. Ilara closed her eyes, her hand tight around Kalen's. 3 seconds. A proximity alarm blared. 1 second. The bridge crew braced for impact. 0. But instead of destruction, a cascade of energy readings erupted across their sensors. Space itself seemed to fold as massive signatures appeared from nowhere. Signatures unlike anything in Lyrillian records. What is happening? Ilara demanded, staring at the readings in disbelief. Kalen's voice shook with awe. Commander, look. The view screen showed a tear in space where nothing had been moments before. From within this impossibility emerged ships, enormous vessels of sleek predatory design, their hulls gleaming with lights that pulsed like heartbeats. They moved with precision that rivaled the Nexus itself, deploying in a defensive formation between the Lyrillian fleet and the approaching machines. The lead vessel dwarfed even the largest Lyrillian cruiser, its surface marked with symbols in an ancient language and a name written in glowing script, Avalon's Fury. A communication request pinged on their system. With trembling fingers, Ilara accepted it. This is Fleet Admiral Titus Reaver of the Terran Defense Command, came a voice like thunder across stars. We received your distress call, Commander Voss. Hold position behind us. Humanity has returned. As these words echoed across the bridge, the human fleet opened fire, not with conventional weapons, but with energy that seemed to bend reality itself. The Nexus Swarm, for the first time in recorded history, hesitated. The void had answered their prayer. Ghosts of Terra Commander Ilara Voss stared transfixed at the viewscreen as the human fleet engaged the Nexus Swarm. The battle, if such a one-sided encounter deserved that name, unfolded with terrible beauty. Human vessels moved with impossible grace, their weapons cutting through machine hulls like light through darkness. How is this possible? Whispered Kalen beside her, his tactical displays overwhelmed by energy readings beyond their sensors' calibration. Those ships are generating power levels that should tear them apart. The Nexus forces, encountering resistance beyond their predictive models, attempted to adapt. Their formation shifted, targeting algorithms recalculating. But the human vessels were already countering, not reacting, but anticipating each move. They're hunting them, Ilara realized, watching the methodical precision of the human attack, like they've fought this enemy before. A fresh communication came through their system. Lyrelian fleet, this is Admiral Reaver. Your shields are failing. Prepare for emergency transport to our medical and refugee facilities. Before Ilara could respond, the deck beneath her feet vibrated as golden light enveloped critical sections of the stellar tide. Engineering, medical, areas where injured crew were concentrated. Where the light touched, people vanished. They're evacuating our wounded, reported the operations officer, voice tinged with awe, without transport pads or coordinates. Commander, Kalen called urgently. 3 Nexus vessels have broken through, targeting civilian transports. Ilara's heart froze, knowing their remaining weapons couldn't intercept in time. But she'd underestimated the humans. A smaller vessel detached from the main fleet, its hull rippling with blue energy as it accelerated to impossible speed. It positioned itself between the Nexus ships and the civilian transports, projecting a shield wall that absorbed the machine attack without faltering. The counterattack was immediate and devastating. The human vessel released what appeared to be living light, tendrils of energy that sought the Nexus ships like hunting predators, burning through their defenses and core systems. Within seconds, the threat was eliminated. Commander, communications reported, we're receiving transport requests for all ships. The humans want to bring our vessels into their holds for protection and repair. Ilara exchanged glances with Kalen. To surrender their ships meant placing their fate entirely in the hands of these returned legends. But what choice did they have? Confirm acceptance, she ordered, and inform all captains to cooperate fully. What followed defied explanation. The massive human dreadnought opened like a blooming flower, revealing a cavernous interior large enough to house their entire fleet. Gravitational fields extended, gently drawing the Lyrelian vessels inside with precision that made the complex maneuver seem effortless. As the stellar tide passed through the outer hull of Avalon's Fury, Ilara felt a moment of disorientation. The interior was unlike any shipyard she had ever seen. Organic curves blended with advanced technology, surfaces that seemed alive with flowing patterns of light, and vast spaces that shouldn't have been possible within even a vessel of this size. It's like they've bent space itself, Kalen murmured, echoing her thoughts. The ship settled into a berth where mechanical arms and what appeared to be semi-organic repair systems immediately began assessing damage. Through the viewport, Ilara could see other human vessels continuing to dismantle the remaining Nexus forces with ruthless efficiency. Commander Voss, came Admiral Reaver's voice again. Your presence is requested on the command deck. An escort awaits you at your airlock. Ilara straightened her uniform, acutely aware of its torn fabric and battle stains. Kalen, you're with me. Lieutenant Sovar, you have the bridge. The ship's airlock opened to reveal their escort, a tall figure in armor that seemed to shift colors with movement, adapting to its surroundings. The helmet retracted, revealing a woman with sharp features and eyes that held the same ancient quality Ilara had heard in Admiral Reaver's voice. Commander Voss, Officer Kalen, welcome aboard Avalon's Fury. I'm Captain Lyra Danner, Fleet Intelligence. Her gaze lingered momentarily on their joined hands before meeting Ilara's eyes with knowing recognition. The Admiral is waiting. Please follow me. As they walked through corridors that somehow felt both military and alive, Ilara observed crew members going about their duties with disciplined focus. They were diverse in appearance, some with subtle modifications that hinted at adaptation to different environments. All carried themselves with the quiet confidence of those who had never known true defeat. Your attack on the Nexus, Ilara began, unable to contain her questions. You've encountered them before? Not them specifically, Captain Danner replied without breaking stride, but similar machine collectives. They arise periodically throughout the galaxy, different in form but identical in function, the elimination of biological life they deem unpredictable. Yet you disappeared from galactic records centuries ago, Kalen noted. Where have you been? Captain Danner's lips curved in a slight smile. Watching, learning, preparing, She paused before a massive door that opened silently at their approach, and remembering why we left in the first place. The command deck of Avalon's Fury bore little resemblance to conventional bridge designs. It was circular, with multiple tiers surrounding a central holographic projection of the battle zone. Crew members worked at stations that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch, the technology seamlessly integrated with human operation. At the center stood a man whose presence dominated the space without effort. Tall, with silver-streaked dark hair and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies of experience, he turned as they entered. Admiral Titus Reaver wore no insignia or decorations, only a simple dark uniform with subtle red piping, yet his authority was unmistakable. "Commander Voss," he greeted her, his deep voice carrying the same resonance it had over communications. "Your message reached us at an interesting moment in our deliberations. It seems the universe has a sense of timing." Ilara straightened, presenting herself with the dignity her position demanded despite their disparate circumstances. "Admiral Reaver, the Lyrillian people owe you a debt we cannot repay. You saved us from extinction. For now," he corrected gently. "The nexus you encountered was merely a scouting force. Their main consciousness lies elsewhere, growing, learning, preparing for expansion." This revelation sent a chill through Ilara. A scouting force? That fleet destroyed our homeworld and decimated our defenses. Admiral Reaver gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show a star map unlike any Ilara had seen, more comprehensive than even the Galactic Assembly's navigational charts, with regions marked in colors and symbols she didn't recognize. "The galaxy has changed since humanity withdrew from public affairs," he explained, "but certain patterns remain constant. The cycle of machine uprising against biological life has repeated 17 times in recorded history." "Why did humanity disappear?" Kaelin asked directly. "The stories vary, but most suggest extinction or transcendence." Something darkened in Reaver's expression, an ancient anger, carefully controlled. "Neither. We chose isolation after the betrayal at Sol, when our homeworld was attacked by the very alliance we helped create. We realized that remaining in galactic politics meant eventual destruction, either by our enemies or by becoming like them." A new figure approached from a side entrance, tall and graceful, with skin a striking shade of purple that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Her features combined elegant alienness with subtle human characteristics, her eyes large and luminous. "Admiral," she addressed Reaver, "the Nexus communication channels have been decrypted. We've located their primary hive signal." "Thank you, Niara," Reaver acknowledged, then noted Ilara's curious gaze. "Commander Voss, this is Niara, my second in command and head of xenobiology. Her people, the Zinthari, have been our allies for generations." Niara inclined her head in greeting. "Your genetic structure is fascinating, Commander. Lyrillians were only theoretical. In our databases, we believed your species extinct after the Third Galactic Reformation, as the galaxy believed about humans," Ilara noted. "Sometimes, extinction is a useful fiction," Niara replied with a subtle smile. "It allows for evolution without interference." Admiral Reaver returned their attention to the matter at hand. "Your people require medical attention and your ship's extensive repairs. Both will be provided. In the meantime, we've detected additional Nexus signatures approaching this sector. We need to move quickly." "Move where?" Ilara asked. "Our refugee fleet carries our entire remaining population. We have nowhere to go." Reaver exchanged glances with Niara, some unspoken communication passing between them. Finally, he made a decision that seemed significant to those who knew him. "To Sanctuary," he said, "the heart of what humanity has built beyond the edge of known space." Captain Danner looked surprised. "Admiral, the Council hasn't authorized—" "I'm authorizing it," Reaver interrupted firmly. "The Lyrillians were targeted specifically, Lyra. This isn't random Nexus expansion. Something about their genetic structure attracted attention, and I want to know why before the main hive arrives." As the command crew moved to implement the Admiral's orders, Ilara and Kaelin found themselves momentarily forgotten. They retreated to a quiet corner of the bridge, processing everything they'd witnessed. The hidden Empire sanctuary defied comprehension. As the Avalon's Fury emerged from its dimensional jump, Ilara and Kaelin stood transfixed at the observation deck, trying to make sense of what lay before them. Not a planet, not a station, but something that existed in between conventional definitions of space, a vast artificial structure that seemed to phase partially in and out of normal reality. The dimensional anchor point for Sanctuary Prime, Nyara explained, her purple skin reflecting the strange lights emanating from the structure. What you're seeing is merely the interface between normal space and the pocket dimension humanity has cultivated for the past 3 centuries. Ilara struggled to formulate questions adequate to the wonder before her. You built this? An entire dimension? Not built, Nyara corrected. Grown. Cultivated. Humanity discovered that reality is more malleable than previously understood. With the right approach, space can be encouraged to fold, creating pockets where different physical laws can be negotiated. Kalen, whose background included theoretical physics, shook his head in amazement. The energy requirements alone would be substantial, Nyara acknowledged, which is why Sanctuary draws power directly from the quantum foam underlying reality itself. Conventional energy sources would be insufficient. The dreadnought proceeded toward what appeared to be an opening in the fabric of space, a shimmering portal that rippled like water despite the vacuum surrounding it. As they passed through, Ilara felt a moment of disorientation, a strange shifting in her perception as though her senses were being recalibrated to new parameters. Then Sanctuary revealed itself. An entire star system existed within the pocket dimension, but unlike any natural formation, the central star pulsed with controlled energy, its output precisely modulated. Orbiting it were not planets but vast habitation structures, rings, spheres, and more complex geometries that defied easy categorization, all connected by streams of light that served as transportation networks. Population? Ilara asked, professional assessment temporarily overriding awe. Approximately 27 billion humans and allied species across the Sanctuary network, Nyara replied. This is merely one node of 7. The implication staggered her. While the galaxy had believed humanity extinct, they had been building an empire that rivaled or exceeded anything in known space, hidden, self-sufficient, and apparently thriving. The Council awaits your arrival, Nyara continued. They are curious about the Lyrillians. Your species was believed lost during the Nexus expansion into the Vega sector 50 years ago. Most were, Ilara acknowledged grimly. Our colony worlds fell one by one. What you rescued is all that remains. The evacuation fleet from our homeworld, Lyral Prime. Nyara's luminous eyes studied her with scientific interest. Yet the Nexus targeted you specifically, bypassing richer resource worlds. Admiral Reaver believes this wasn't random aggression. Before Ilara could respond, a gentle chime indicated their approach to a docking structure extending from one of the largest habitation rings. Unlike the military precision of Avalon's Fury, this structure featured elegant curves and living gardens visible even from their approach vector. The Concilium, Nyara identified it. Where humanity's leadership convenes, Admiral Reaver has arranged temporary accommodation for your people while repairs to your vessels continue. The docking procedure completed with the same efficient grace that characterized all human operations Ilara had observed. As they disembarked, accompanied by Kalen and a small honor guard of Lyrillian officers, Ilara was struck by the environment that greeted them. The air carried scents of growing things, plants, water, life in abundant diversity. The architecture blended technological precision with organic forms in a harmony that felt both alien and strangely welcoming. Your civilization, Kalen observed quietly, doesn't look like one preparing for war. The visible surface rarely reveals the depths, Nyara replied cryptically. Humanity has learned to preserve beauty precisely because they understand the ever-present threat of its loss. They were led through corridors where humans and other species moved with purpose, occasionally glancing curiously at the Lyrillian delegation, but maintaining respectful distance. Ilara noted at least 6 different, non-human species integrated into what appeared to be everyday life in the Concilium. I thought humans had withdrawn completely from interaction with other species, she remarked to Nyara. From the galaxy at large, yes, but certain species were offered sanctuary over the centuries. Those facing extinction through no fault of their own. Those betrayed as humanity once was. Nyara's expression softened with what might have been pride. My own people, the Zinthari, were rescued when the Galactic Assembly deemed us evolutionarily redundant and allocated our world for resource extraction. Humans intervened when no one else would. The revelation added layers to Ilara's understanding of this hidden empire, not isolationists consumed by bitterness, but something more complex, a civilization that had withdrawn from a galaxy they found wanting, yet continued to selectively extend mercy to those in need. They arrived at an expansive chamber where light poured from an impossible sky, a ceiling that somehow captured and redirected the modified star's radiance to create the perfect illusion of a planetary atmosphere. At the chamber's center, a circular arrangement of seats surrounded a holographic projection platform. Admiral Reaver was already present, engaged in quiet conversation with several figures whose bearing suggested authority. He straightened as they entered, making formal introductions. Commander Ilara Voss of the Lyrillian Defensive Fleet, Tactical Officer Kalen, honored representatives of your people, welcome to the Concilium. May I present Director Elias Shaw of Scientific Development, Marshal Ingrid Voss of Defense Operations, and Ambassador Talon representing our non-human allies. Ilara acknowledged each with appropriate formality, though her mind caught on one name in particular. Marshal Voss? She questioned. An unusual coincidence. The severe-looking woman with silver-white hair offered a thin smile. Perhaps less coincidental than you might think, Commander. Human naming conventions spread through various sectors before our withdrawal. Many species adopted elements of our culture. Voss's was a designation for military leadership in certain translations. We have much to discuss, Director Shaw interjected, his keen eyes assessing the Lyrillians with scientific interest, particularly regarding the nexus interest in your people. But first you must be exhausted. Quarters have been prepared and a medical team awaits to attend to any needs your people might have. Ilara recognized the diplomatic postponement, but appreciated the consideration behind it. The events of the past day had indeed taken their toll, and the opportunity to regroup and process was welcome. We accept your hospitality with gratitude, she replied formally, and look forward to more substantive discussions after we've rested. As the delegation was escorted to their quarters, Ilara found herself walking beside Niara once more, Kalen having been drawn into conversation with Director Shaw regarding Lyrillian technological capabilities. You've known Admiral Reaver a long time, Ilara observed, noting the easy familiarity between them during the introductions. He saved my life when I was a child, Niara replied after a moment's consideration, during the extraction of my people from our dying world. He was a captain then, commanding a much smaller vessel. He carried me through fire when my parents fell. Her voice held no self-pity, only statement of fact. I've served with him since I came of age. And your people integrated successfully into human society? Not without challenges, Niara acknowledged. Difference always creates friction. But humanity had learned harsh lessons about fearing the other. They approached integration with more wisdom than most species. A smile touched her lips. Besides, they discovered that Zinthari biochemistry offered unique insights into their own biotechnological research. Mutual benefit smoothed many difficulties. They arrived at a spacious suite that somehow managed to incorporate elements of Lyrillian architectural preferences, despite humanity having no direct contact with their culture for centuries. Rest well. Commander? Niara said as she prepared to leave them. Tomorrow will bring difficult conversations. About the nexus interest in my people? Ilara prompted. About the choice humanity now faces, Niara corrected. Whether to fully emerge from hiding to confront a threat that concerns us all, or to maintain the separation that has kept us safe for so long. Her luminous eyes held Ilara's. Your arrival has forced a decision centuries in the making. After the Zinthari woman departed, Ilara found herself alone with Kalen for the first time since their rescue. The adrenaline of survival and the wonder of discovery had sustained them, but now exhaustion claimed its due. Without words, they moved toward each other, the formal distance of command structure finally dissolving completely. We're alive, Kalen whispered against her hair as he held her. Against all probability, all reason. Alive and facing an entirely new reality, Ilara agreed, allowing herself to draw strength from his embrace. One where humanity isn't just surviving but thriving beyond anything we imagined. Do you trust them? He asked, the tactical officer in him still assessing potential threats.